Good evening, everyone.
Bonsoir, Jean-Paul.
Hi, Jean-Paul. I'm just letting you
Hello,
know.
is Nandi speaking French?
I am.
Comment ça va, Nandi?
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, bonsoir.
Hey, Leo,
Bonsoir,
can you
Audley.
hear me okay?
Just letting you know we do have quorum and the meeting will not be live streamed because of the issues that are happening at 50/50.
We have quorum now, eh?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
John Paul, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Thank you.
okay. Hello, everyone. Sorry that we're not able to meet in person today because last minute issue with the internet at 50/50 young. Anyway, that is because we have quorum. It is 7:02, calling the meeting to order. I want to welcome Trustee Erhard. Can you come on the screen so that people can see you, please?
Yeah. Bonjour, Jean-Paul. I'm on the screen right now. Hello.
Okay, thank you,
everybody.
Trustee. I mean, that is to let everyone know, Trustee, Erhard is here on behalf of Trustee Art. Michelle is not won't be here at least for the beginning of the meeting. Maybe she might show up, but thanks, Trustee Erhard.
Thank you.
joining
And
us
it's my
today.
pleasure to be participating. I'm a first-time trustee this year. I was just elected in October, November, and I did sit in on a previous meeting, but I'm very pleased to be a part. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Trustee Art. Okay. As Leanne just said, we're not, there's no live streaming of the meeting. Sorry, I mean, to those who are used to, because of the issue that you all know at 50/50 Young with the internet.
Oh, sorry, Jean-Paul, to interrupt you. I just got an email and that Manshu says he is live streaming the meeting on Zoom from
Okay.
York Mills Collegiate. So he did get access to live. So that's an update. So we will be live streaming.
Yeah, he's doing that from York Mills Collegiate. I mean, so that
Yeah.
people know that is not from 50/50 Young. Okay, thank you for the update, Leanne.
Thank you.
Do we have any volunteer for the land acknowledgement before we get into the business? Do you have it written? You can bring this up so that
Yes.
another member can read it for us, Leanne.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any volunteer? Melissa? Melissa?
I'm going to defer to someone who's more experienced, perhaps our guest trustee or another trustee. But thank you for the offer.
Okay, you're very welcome. I think that's just do it.
I can do it.
We acknowledge we are on the land. Can you stand up, please, where you're sitting? We acknowledge we are on the lands of the Mississaugas and the Oceanabis, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people, as well as the importance of establishing and maintaining cultural safety through learning from indigenous people and perspectives. Thank you. And now the review and approval of the agenda. Thanks, Richard, for catching one piece that we missed around the roundtable update. And is there anything that you think we should be adding to our agenda, or something that you see on the agenda that we shouldn't be kind of discussing today?
Jean-Paul, this is Melissa. This is a very minor thing. Don't know if I even need to spend time mentioning it. In the request for agenda items, I did mention a very brief update for the Special Education Plan Working Group, which will take a minute, maybe two. I can roll that into the effective practices working group time. Just wanted to mention it. It seemed to have gotten dropped on the agenda.
Yeah, I think that's if it is, because there's a member update. I mean, you just, a roundtable update when beyond the effective practice working group of presentation, which is not an update, is an actual agenda item. You probably when as we're doing the roundtable, you will kind of provide this an update on special education plan working group. Okay, I see Isabella. Go ahead, Isabella.
Thank you. Hello, sorry. I'm just wondering whether we could maybe just ask the board to explain to us a couple of what do you call it? I realize that there are various types of EAs and other people who take care of our special education students in a classroom. And I just wanted to see whether this could be explained to us, and I'm saying this partly because of the issue that I brought to the table about the number of students with multiple exceptionalities in the classroom, how many were to be included, and this actually relates to it. But so far, I cannot find any information about this, about the different types of EAs. And I know that there is a category IJK, and I think SEAC could benefit actually from just hearing from you about it. So I wonder if we could just have a couple of minutes for maybe Nandi or somebody else to just explain these to us. That's all.
Yes, thank you. I mean, Isabella, if I got you correctly in that you're saying that it is some kind of supplementary kind of clarification that you will need from what staff will be sharing with us in regarding ISP in the report, right? If it is the case, let staff, when we get to that point, the staff,
okay,
sharing, report with us will be part of the question that we probably ask for clarification. If they need more time, we'll probably consider having another, item at the next meeting to get things,
okay,
further discussed.
Okay,
okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yep.
Okay,
Sounds
thank you.
Thanks.
And any other comment, questions? If not, may I have someone to move for the approval of the agenda as you presented? We all virtual. Okay, I see Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Jean-Paul.
Yeah, anyone, seconding? Richard on, thanks, Nora. I see, Jenna, thanks, Nora, second Nora, and I see that, we all agree that this is what we got our conversation tonight. Okay, thank you. And the next item will be, declaration of possible conflict of interest. And does anyone has any, conflict of interest with what will be discussed tonight? I don't see. I see. It is none. Do you see any hand raised, Lilian? No. It's no. Okay, thank you. Now the next item will be the minute from our last meeting that happened March 20th. Thanks, Samindyan, for for sharing all the minutes. It's been that is really excited. Okay, Melissa.
Sorry, I didn't catch this earlier. I don't know if we have to add it. I'm just mentioning. Audley was kind enough in our March meeting to say that he would try to get us whatever ONSYS data is already available, and I didn't notice that it hadn't made it into the action log. I don't know if we want to do something about that, but I'm just mentioning it. Sorry, I didn't notice earlier.
Okay, yes, I mean, yeah, thank you, I mean, for that. I think this is something that, you know, I mean, Leanne will consider adding that to the minute because I know that, you know, there was a commitment made by staff last month.
Okay.
Can you please
Yeah.
consider, you know, amending
Sure,
the
I
minute?
can add that to the minutes.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
and the action law will be kind of updated accordingly. Thanks, Melissa. I think that is you probably, as we go into the action log, we'll put it, we make sure that the next version would include that. And you know, I think it will be something that would remind us of what we agree on as action. Thank you. Any other, you know, comment, questions? If no, anyone, you know, I mean, moving for approval of the minutes of March 20th meeting as amended. Can you please, you know, people who attended the meeting? Yes, so Nora, thanks Nora for moving, you know, things. Anyone seconding?
I'll second Melissa.
Melissa second. Okay. Anyone, does anyone have a problem with the minute as amended to be approved? I see none. Thank you, everyone. Now we're moving into the action, the action, you know, action log update. I don't know if you know, maybe Leanne, if you pull this up, it'll be maybe faster for us to go through. Okay, good. Can you go scroll to up all the way up? Let's see. Right at the beginning. And when you see that is, we can, the way that it is done here, you'll see that it is the first action and for the meeting of January 01. And the first one is the date. You can see that we can see, you know, follow what we're doing through this. And now that is, as you see, these are things that we need to determine and to confirm for this, you know, probably we need to have this at, you know, special education as a strategic driver. I remember we discussed last time, you know, to say make a distinction between special education as strategic driver versus budget driver. We need to, and I know that we did not, I mean, Richard, you probably, you know, the lead for the budget working group, we probably need to take this into the budget and financial statement working group to see, you know, when you can have a kind of you know, background material for the broader committee to have a discussion on this item. We don't hear you, Richard, if you are speaking.
Okay, not speaking yet. I was just waiting to get the invite. Thank you.
No, I think that's already, sorry.
Okay.
We're not clear. Okay.
So I was going to bring it up a little later, but just to quickly point out, basically, I am the only person and the one staff person on the budget working group. We definitely need a call to SEAC to add more members to this group and get some direction from SEAC overall as to, you know, in addition to what you've pointed out here tonight, what they want to see us cover. So we can bring that back up a little later tonight. People can think about joining the group in the meantime. Thank you.
Okay, that means this TBC and TBD we need to be sorted out, you know, with Richard as we go forward. I think that is go through, you know, I mean, that is some of them are already, you know, completed, and the motion, the update from Nora. Thanks again, I mean, for kind of leading all the charge for this motion and all the way to the feedback last month. Thank you for the update, please.
Thanks, Jean-Paul. Okay, so a little bit on the update. So the reason we asked for the list of indicators from staff about how special education students were, the service level delivery that they were experiencing currently, that's really in relation to two things I already mentioned tonight. Number one, we're not a strategic driver. So in no way does it look like any of the trustees receive information about how special education students are doing. And so the motion was to try and elevate and highlight if cuts are going to be made strictly on the mere total number of special education students, that's really not sufficient since the board has the duty to accommodate any student with a disability. And then secondly, Richard's asking for people to join the budget committee, and I would have no idea what to say about budget since I have no data of any kind to make any kind of recommendation about. So really the motion was a way to try and access information that we have requested numerous times and have not been provided. I also think that right now there are no standards about measuring how students with special education are doing in the board. So that motion went to the financial subcommittee, the finance subcommittee, because the motion stipulates that the Board of Trustees would hear indicators on how special education students were currently being served prior to voting on the budget. At that meeting, there were a number of trustees who had some questions. There weren't really many questions for Jean-Paul or for me. Predominantly, there was a discussion about was all of the information accessible, which we knew as a committee it was not, which is why at the end of the motion stipulated that where the information was not collected, they could leave it blank because we were aware some of that information would not be easily accessible immediately before budget, but some of it quite clearly is. Another concern that came up was that people or board staff felt that some of the information violated privacy, which doesn't really make sense to me because we're not asking who the students are. The students are probably large enough in number not to be identified. And so I was a little confused about why the privacy commissioner had questions about the total number of safety plans in the entire TDSB. So maybe staff would be able to clarify why that might have been an issue since we're not looking for identifying schools, students, just total numbers. So that was brought up. And another concern was brought up that the timeline was so short that staff might not be able to pull together the information. And so some of the trustees felt that budget time was very busy. Another trustee, Trustee McLean, pointed out that it's not like budget time is a shock. So maybe we can start collecting this information in advance so that in the future and in future budget years, the information would have already been collected. So it is my understanding at that meeting, and hopefully Audley and Michelle will be able to clarify what happens next, is that they reworded the motion to state that staff would provide what they could easily access in a timely manner before an April meeting of the Finance Committee. I'm still unclear about how the whole Board of Trustees hears the motion, because to be honest, the committee advises to the board, not a portion of the board. I think David's brought this up numerous times. So I was hoping for the entire board to be, and every trustee to hear a special education indicators of performance before they voted on cuts. So maybe at this point, Michelle and Audley could help us understand what happens next.
Good. Thank you, Nora. I think Audley, I don't know if you can, provide us with an update on what are the, the commitment that was, the direction that you received from the board today, and how far.
Yes, I definitely can. Thank you, and through the chair. So at the committee meeting, part of what the board directed staff to do is to provide the board with information with respect to the request, information that is easily accessible, and that information will be provided at the next FBEC. The other part of what the board has asked is for staff to provide the information that is not necessarily easily available in a report in the fall, highlighting some of the other information. And if there are information that's not available or not collected, making reference to all of that, those particular categories. So there are two reports that are being asked. The first one will provide FBEC with the information that is readily available and accessible. And I know that Nandy has already started to endeavor in order to collect some of the other information that has been requested where appropriate, where available, in order to provide for that second report that staff will be bringing forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Audley. Any question, comment on this? And some of the action we will update the action log, to make sure that we follow what is happening. Any question? Yes. Oh, yes.
Trustee Earhart here, and I just noticed in the chat too that Trustee Dawson's also here. So hi, Trustee Dawson. Thank you for coming as well. And Trustee Dawson has more experience than me, so may have more to add. But just there was a specific question from Nora around how all trustees get to see reports that go to committees. And so my understanding, for example, I don't sit on FBEC, but I get access to all the reports that go, and anything that gets approved at a committee then goes to full board for consideration. And so it does go up to a full board meeting as well. It's not always an item for discussion. That depends procedurally on what takes place, but any motions and any reports that go to a committee also goes to the full board. I hope that's helpful.
That is. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee. Steve?
Yes. Hi. I guess. Thank you, John Paul. My question is similar to Nora's, that the questions that we are putting forward to the board, we need to know exactly when we present to PSSC, for example, her question about what happens next in terms of where does this motion and this information go next? I'm still not quite clear on that. It may have been answered, but if that could be addressed.
I think that is, this is, if I may, and after that I will give the floor to, Audley to kind of make sure that it is clear. For this particular motion that we presented at FBEC last month, the FBEC directed staff to start working on the requests that we put forward to implement the motion, the requirement for the motion that we put forward, and having some kind of timeline for this to happen. And that's what I'm saying, that the next version of this action log would include built in those timelines. We have two major timelines, the next FBEC meeting and the fall. And that is what we'll build here. I think that is, and as if I heard what Trustee Earhart just said, this is really the purpose, the intent for this was to bring some evidence in front of the Board of Trustees before they make any decision about budget. Thank you.
Okay. Is it possible, my last comment, to reiterate previous requests from SEAC that these subcommittees, such as FBEC, such as PSSC, actually formally respond to SEAC with what they've said they're going to do. We're hearing, we always hear it through staff. A response directly to the people that have put the motion forward, I think, is a reasonable and professional request. I don't think it's much to ask for, especially for PSSC, to respond directly back to SEAC, even to the chair, that says, we received this, this is what we've done. We need to start putting these mechanisms in place so that these people realize they have to respond to us and not just say, yeah, well, we looked at it, what's next? That's my last comment. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that is a great point. Great point, Steve. I think that is I think we, Trustee Ehud is, had heard, what is coming from SIAC about, what, would like to see. I mean, and I think, Trustee Ott, how you raised this with her too when she, and I see hands. I see, David, Steve. Is it a legacy hand or a new hand? I also see, Nora again, David. David, go ahead, please, and Nora, and I would your indulgence, we move forward. David.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone. I just have a simple question, which is, Audley has quite reasonably said that what's reasonably available, they'll provide quickly, and other stuff is going to take longer. Maybe someone can help me, because maybe I'm not up to speed on this, but I don't know why all of this information we're asking for isn't readily available. I would think that senior management of the board would want to know all this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would have thought that that's sort of part of governing a board of this nature. So in other words, I don't know why any of it isn't readily available. And apropos of Nora's point, I can't see privacy being a logical justification here when we're asking for aggregated data. In fact, I'm stupefied by anybody who might raise that. Anyway, back to you.
Okay, thank you, David. I think that is, do we have anything to add, very quickly, Audley, so that before we...
Thank you. And through the chair, I think one part of what I had outlined in our previous meeting was some data is readily available and we can provide. Some data the board currently does not collect, and some data that the board has to determine whether or not it's appropriate to collect. And I think that those are the three categories of data that we have to interrogate. And as such, I hear when David outlines that we should be collecting all of that. At this point in time, historically, most of the data that we've collected has been data that has been requested through the Ministry of Education, and we must provide. So all of the data that SEAC brought forward in that particular motion was not data that the board traditionally collects. At this point in time, some data collecting that information directly from schools and principals may be very, very challenging within the school community. So those are some of the three categories that we are looking at, that we will come back to SEAC with information on in order to respond based on the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Audley. Nora, a quick comment before we...
I did want to make one comment. So one of the other things I did want to mention that I was a little alarmed about was the first time I heard about a special education report going to trustees was at that FBEC meeting. Now, is that true for you too, Jean-Paul? And so I'm a little unclear about how the whole special education report that had some data in it that I didn't know anything about, I learned at that meeting when we're the Special Education Advisory Committee. So that was another thing I wanted to add, that in my ongoing frustration about accessing information that demonstrates how our students are doing, it just feels persistent. And so I would be negligent if I didn't express my ongoing frustration with that. So
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this, Nora. I think that is, I did learn that, the same time that you did that at the feedback meeting, and I brought this, I discussed this with staff when we were, preparing for this meeting, and I think, sometimes some things happen only because people are all busy, and you saw that we got that report before he went to the trustees, and the only thing that I will encourage staff, even though they are very busy, to make sure that they send accessible document to SEAC, because they forget to make it accessible before sharing it with everyone. That is the way we honestly, as a SEAC, we don't want to, to do exactly what we ask people not to do. That's a comment that we'll make here, and we'll make sure that that stuff, even if they forget, I know that Lian would be there to remind busy staff that we need some to share with everyone before it. Okay. Thank you for bringing this up, Noah.
Sorry, through the chair, if I can respond to that.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. I mean, I thought, we should go ahead.
Yeah, so, and I understand the protocol where SEAC should get access to information in a timely fashion. I think part of the challenge is that we are also governed by an expectation that the reports that are effectively done for board goes to trustees as the governing body first, and then is provided to SEAC. So I think that's part of the tension point. And so historically, the governance model, the reports are for trustees, and then we provided them as soon as we can in order to SEAC. But that has been a part of our governance structure.
Okay, I see Nora. Maybe Nora has something to add to. Go ahead, Nora.
I think this goes back to whether we're the special education informed committee or advisory committee. So it's very difficult to provide advice when things are already done without your input. So I understand that the responsibilities are to the board of trustees to make decisions, but last time I checked, we're an advisory committee, not an informed committee. And our opinion should be sought about services and budget expenditures as per SEAC's mandate. Currently, we do not receive sufficient information to be able to fulfill our mandate. So I'm not sure how to, the motion is the closest I could come to trying to begin that process. But that would be the ongoing frustration. We're supposed to advise.
Okay. Thank you, Nora. I think that is, as I've already said, it is ongoing, improvement process. We'll just, as we're working as a team, make sure that we all trying to work together we are all here for the same goal, same purpose. Okay, thank you. I think that is the rest of the action log. Some of the list of specs staff with different position, this job description to be shared with SEAC. I think those are the things that, and also some of the link and the roadmap presentation. Yeah, unfortunately, the integration action for inclusion were not ready to do, the mapping for this month. And as action from last month. Okay, I mean, the presentation on back on SEAC at the April meeting is happening today. Okay, that is the action log, and the next version will include everything that we put here and some of the timelines, for the follow-up of the motion regarding the request for data. Now, the next item on the agenda is the census presentation. We have staff from the research department that will be doing that. Leanne, maybe can you please get him or her up?
Yes, Amy Presley is here, and Amy, I've made you a co-host if that works.
Great, thank you. Evening, everybody. My name's Amy Presley. I'm from the research department, and my colleague Akriti Kapoor is here also. We're just following up on an email that was sent out to PIAC and SEAC and the community advisory committees about the student census in February. So we just had asked folks if they wanted to have a follow-up conversation and answer any questions. So we're here to do that today. We have a brief PowerPoint just to sort of ground what we're going to say. And I'll share that, and Akriti, you're going to get started.
Yes, sounds good. Thanks so much, Amy. And thank you so much to everyone here today for sharing time and space with us. As Amy mentioned, we're following up on an email that was sent in February. However, just a little bit of a backtrack prior to that. Our team is glad to be back to SEAC because we've been here many months ago now at this point. We first visited SEAC sometime, I think, in the fall of 2021, where topics for the student census were discussed. But generally speaking, overall, our team spent over a year conducting over 60 consultations to develop the student census, which is currently underway with students, families, staff, community members within and outside the TDSB. So as a bit of a recap with respect to the process that went into that, we started these consultations in spring of 2021, and they went all the way till winter 2022. with various TDSB communities to develop survey questions. As I just mentioned, we spoke to PIAC, CIAC, and CAC members in the fall of 2021 and early 2022, where topics for the student census were discussed, and these discussions informed survey items, which were then reviewed internally in the winter of 2022. CIAC in particular had a follow-up working group meeting where more details were discussed to help shape the content of the student census. All of these consultations helped inform the first draft of the survey, which was then piloted with students and parents in spring 2022 and summer 2022. It was ultimately student and parent feedback, which helped us create the final draft of the survey, which proposed the items that were set to launch in November 2022. But there was a bit of a pause with respect to implementation. And so where we're at now, and this was a bit of an update message that was sent out in February, along with rationale and description about what the items were and what kind of content that went into the survey. We're at a point where during the pause, requirements of the Anti-Racism Act became mandatory for school boards to follow as of January 1, 2023, which necessitated review of a few identity questions, and at the same time, new data collection guidelines from the Ministry of Education regarding parental consent led to a modified consent process for students in grades 4 to 8. And so the different groups within the TDSB, specifically students in kindergarten to grade 3, they're not directly filling out the census. Parents, guardians, caregivers receive an email link to complete the census at home on behalf of their children. Students in grades 4 to 8, as I mentioned, a bit of a modified consent process where parents, guardians, caregivers have the choice of having their child complete the census themselves at school, or they can do it with their children at home. Students in grades 9 to 12 receive an email link to complete the census during class time. With respect to intensive support programs, we worked specifically alongside CIAC, but also staff and who are supporting students in DD and MID programs to identify an approach that would best meet the needs of students in these programs. And so parents, guardians, caregivers with children and developmental disability, DD, or mild intellectual disability, MID programs will receive an email link to complete the census in part or in full on behalf of their child. And it's important to also highlight that parents, guardians, caregivers have the option to opt out of the census altogether for their child in any of these groups. So the census is not a mandatory tool, it is optional. And in terms of important dates, so where we are in the process, between March 21st and 23rd, a heads up email was sent to staff and parents, guardians, caregivers to let them know that the census is coming. March 28th, an email was sent with consent and opt-out information to parents, guardians, caregivers. And parents without email, schools were instructed how to contact them. Parents, caregivers, guardians of students in JK to grade 3 were also given the link to fill out the census should they choose at this time. And we just yesterday, the consent / opt-out window closed on April 10th yesterday. And based off this information, only students whose parents have consented to participate will get a link to participate in the student census starting on April 17th. And I'm going to flip it over to Amy to talk us through a few other process details of the census.
Thanks, Akriti. Nora, I see that your hand's up. It doesn't matter to us if you want to wait till the end or if we have questions Sharing it is fine.
It's a quick one. Thank you, Amy. So my concern is not every student in the TDSB that has a mild intellectual disability or a developmental disability is in an ISP. So are you telling me those families do not have an option to fill in the census on behalf of their child?
No, thank you for the question. I'll just clarify. Every student does have an option. It's just the adapted version is for students who are in an MID program or a DD program. All others.
But what if I'm MID and DD and I didn't choose a program? I don't get an adapted version then?
You would be receiving the student census, and staff are, we were directed that staff would support students in the way that they usually support students every day to complete the survey. The adapted version is, I can explain that, is with staff and previous experience from different iterations of the census. The demographic questions are completed on behalf of the child by the parent, and the perception questions are completed by the student.
Okay, so that wouldn't happen for a student who's not in an ISP but has a developmental disability.
They would be receiving the complete census and then could skip the questions or
thank you very much for the information. I just want to make a statement about the fact that the board still thinks special ed just means ISP. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm happy to answer questions as we go, or we can, or just raise your hand.
Please just go ahead and
Yep.
we'll ask the question.
So this next piece, I just wanted to speak to some of the questions on the survey. So all the surveys are posted online. That was this, because the consent window opened, Akriti mentioned, we wanted to make sure all the surveys were online for families to review before they provided a consent option or an opt-out for their child. So this is, I'm not going to get into all the questions. I just wanted to pull a few out that were revised based on feedback from the consultation process that Akriti described. We included a lot more questions around inclusive schools and student voice and belonging and student identity. So questions that include students' race, ethnicity, gender, and abilities were included in the questions around belonging and student voice. So on the screen right now, there's some of the examples are, I learn about people with disabilities. At school, I had been put on the spot by teachers to speak on behalf of everyone who has the same identity as me. At school, I see my identity positively shown in books or materials teachers use in class. And at school, I have opportunities to learn from guests who have the same identity as me. There are other, these are just sort of a sample. All the questions that we do have want to work with SEAC and other stakeholders that we worked with in the consultation process to unpack the information when we get them back, and then also work through further research question and shared narratives. So when the results come back out in the fall and in the later winter, we hope to come back and present and chat about that. Sorry, I'm sharing the wrong screen. So the question, the question around disability is, because the survey is online this year, it's a little bit different. In the past, it has been just an open-ended question for students, and students filled in a box if they chose to, based on past students' answers, our conversations through consultation, different guidelines. We've added a list, and that is if students say yes to the first question, are you a student with a disability or a disabled person? Yes, no, not sure. The follow-up list is shown to students if they want to select anything in the list. And the larger list is for grades 7 to 12. An open-ended question is for grades 4, 5, and 6. And then parents answer for students in JK to grade 3. Just briefly, when we were speaking with SEAC in 2021 now, it has gone by quite quickly. there were different comments and considerations for implementation. So we worked through some of those considerations. One of the questions was around length of the survey. So we totally recognize the survey is quite long. We have given schools a month to sort of work through when is a good time to complete the survey for students. And there's also a sort of a natural break in it that we've put a video and sort of encourage students to take a break, but also teachers can support their students sort of, and you can always come back to where you left off in the survey. So it really can take as many days as the student needs to complete it. Staff or sort of members in SEAC also mentioned, I think thinking about before this, the census, the perception questions were grouped together and the identity questions were grouped together. So we've sort of weaved those together. So it's not as, I don't know if jarring is the right word, but it's not all the identity questions in one and then all the perception questions in one. It's sort of weaved different points in time in the survey. And I sort of already spoke to the adapted versions. Qualtrics, we're using Qualtrics, which is an online platform which we used through the pandemic for all our student check-in surveys, and have used with the different accessibility software in the TDSB. There's parent letters are translated into 21 languages. Some other supports that are happening is our CSW team is working with families in JK to grade 3 to promote the census and then also support families in filling it out if need be. And then for families that don't have an email on file, that CSB doesn't have an email, we're supporting with a paper process. And I think those are sort of the big changes for implementation. Perhaps I'll leave it there and then we can take any questions.
Yes, Browan.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, I have some concerns, to be honest, overall with the census, the way it's being distributed to families. I also really would like to know what is happening with these, this information. Is it truly being analyzed and looked at to see change, or is this done to say we've done it, tick it off and file it? I'm sorry to be blunt there, but I've had a horrendous experience with my daughter's school when she started in JK, and we have a new principal now. That is good, a breath of fresh air. But now filling this out from what I have filled out between JK, what I should have done, I was not made aware of this at all as a parent. This was never really brought to my attention. None of these things were they were just sent in emails en masse, but it was never really brought to a parent of how important this was for my child's future and for other children with disabilities or with anything that's in this survey. And I'm reading it now as very eyes wide open as a parent within the TDSB. And I'm thinking, if I had known when that principal was there and everything that happened to my child, and now we have a brand new principal, how things have drastically changed, what would have done? What would have been changed? So really, I'm frustrated with how this is distributed to parents. Parents do not understand. I speak English, being born and raised in Canada. I read this stuff and no one understands the importance. That is the missing piece. They don't understand what you do with this. They don't have the time to understand sometimes. They're so busy, they're overworked. Maybe they're working 3-5 jobs. Who knows what's happening, but I know you say you give it into paperwork, but there's too much overload and information without explaining to families that have extremely busy lives medically or whatever it would be to really understand how these are going to be really important for our children's future. And that's what my frustration is. Also, number 2 is that as I'm reading this, it's very vague. So I'm gone through the census, I've been filling it out myself, and it's not a very good survey, to be honest, from my opinion. Looking at my children with disabilities, I don't think it's really getting at the right answers. Have you brought people from SEAC or with people with disabilities or anything to this to see what the appropriate questions would be to ask? Overall, I'm not pleased with how this is happening, and I feel like this is just a waste of time and energy, and you're not really getting the true information that is needed across the TDSB, because you don't know what happens if you don't get that input for that parent. Are you really going back and saying you have to do this by a certain time period, like having a parent teacher interview? Like if you really want to have the feedback, how much follow-up is going into this to make sure all of the TDSB parents are doing this? And that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Bronwyn, for sharing your concern and making some comment here. And I'm sure that in addition to what TDSB is looking through this survey, and Amy and RQT will probably kind of trying to understand exactly what Bronwyn see that's missing here. I mean, not because I'm sure that we're doing this to get some, exactly what you're getting through this, but Bronwyn will probably there are some things that you may get to help other students with special needs. Amy and RQT, I don't know who want to reflect on what Bronwyn just said.
Thank you for the comments. And we appreciate that this is a lot for parents to wrap their heads around. And that was our feedback from 2016 as well in our last iteration. So there are a lot of strategies that we've tried to work through to make it less onerous on families, and recognizing it still is. And there's a trust with information collected at the board. So we're trying to work through that relationship building piece, and inviting, when we have the information back, inviting many different community groups to work through that information and how they would like, how best the board should use the information. We want that we want that conversation to not just be siloed in research. I think the piece around the experiences of special education students not being seen in the survey, I guess.
Yeah, it's completely missed. I'm reading it and it's horrendous. It's not at all focusing on disabilities. I want to see equal things in these surveys across the board. It's just, I want more and more and more of everything in the TDSB, and not more of one thing. And this isn't right. The only time I've ever seen a survey like this was when COVID was happening and parents were advocating either to have schools closed or have schools open. I was one of those advocating to have schools open. That was the only time I ever saw parents with their lights, lit on fire, because everyone knew what schools being closed meant or being open meant. It wasn't, rocket science. Everyone filled out those surveys, and it was a huge, huge part of them. And I think we need to get some more education and awareness constantly within the TDSB. There's too much separation from parents on purpose. It's happening I've only been in this for, a couple of years now, but I've been in the system overall for my entire life, medically, with boards, unions, everything. There's too much separation from us. We need to be brought into this so we can be involved to understand what is happening with our kids with these surveys that are happening and being done. Everyone understood what was happening during COVID because everyone understood it. No one knows how everything is set up unless they are immersed, like ourselves who are on SEAC, who were brought here because of our advocacy and our experience and what we've been doing for pretty much our entire lives of advocates. But a lot of parents don't know and get it. And you need to bring that education so we can have more families understand that their children are not getting at all the appropriate services across the board of the TDSB, especially ones that are not fully in an ISP program. My son has been an ISP for his entire life. My daughter has been in mainstream, and it has been the worst experience trying to advocate for her. It's mentally draining. And I think overall, I feel like parents are constantly pushed aside and we're not brought in on these things. And I really just feel that we're doing this as a waste of time and money. And again, I don't like doing anything that's a waste of time. I want to do something to have real meaningful change. And I want to feel that what we're bringing to you to the table has been researched well on how it's going to be effectively changing long-term, and making it mandatory, maybe as the same as including it in the parents' night. When you're coming there, here you go. Here's a physical form, explaining in that, trying to make us understand how the whole system works in the TDSB. If you really want that too, like, I don't know if you really want that information, to be honest. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like it's being put out there because it has to be, and not because it's going to be changed.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm being
Rowan. I
honest.
think for reiterating, your concern that you raised earlier. I think that is, I'm looking at the time. I'm sorry. I know that people will complain that it seems like I'm cutting people off, but it's 7:55 is, we are 20 minutes behind. We have a lot of items on the agenda again. I'm so sorry. I mean, that is, I think, thanks Amy and Equity for the updates, the status update of the implementation of the survey. We are now already in the implementation phase. And I think, as you said, you came to SEAC, we probably didn't, provide enough feedback, or some of them were not built in, not yet built into the current survey that is already being implemented. My suggestion would be that if it is possible to, some of this, feedback, not necessarily the concern. I mean, feedback that, Browan, brought up today, and to be captured into the minutes. I know Lian is taking notes, to the minutes, and for the next, survey. I mean, so that is, we'll make sure that it's built into. For this one, I don't think there's anything we can do. It's already at the implementation phase, and for that, Melissa, is it, very something that we can say?
This is very quick. First of all, Amy and others, thank you very much for coming. It's always very helpful for SEAC to hear what's going on in broader TDSB as it pertains to special education. So we really appreciate you being here and providing an update. Question number one, could you please share a copy of your presentation? And just a gentle reminder to any outside speakers that maybe staff could remind them, it is very helpful if we can have presentations and written information before meetings. It helps us follow along and maybe ask fewer questions. And then I have a very quick question. I temporarily lost connection. I hope it doesn't happen again. I just wanted clarification. Do parents also have to provide consent for high school students, or just for, in effect, K-8? Like, can high school students fill in a survey without their parents having given consent? Would that be a yes or a no?
For 9 to 12, it's an opt-out process. So parents of students in grade 9 to 12, I guess it's sort of assumed opted in if you don't opt out. So that opt-out form was sent to all families with students in grades 9 to 12 for the last 2 weeks, and it closed yesterday, I guess, April 10th.
So I'm assuming that it was very clearly labeled all over the place. You must opt out in case busy parents missed it, I hope.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I think a quick comment on that. I received it because I have a high school student, but I, it was not very clear. I mean, that is, I only understood that it was a opt-out, option, because I was trying to see where they were saying that, telling me, that's about the survey, without saying that, explain exactly what it was all about, the way that you're explaining now. Maybe for next time, maybe, putting it clearly that, it's for is an option for you, because you are parent of high school student to choose not to, for your child not to participate in the survey. It was just, text with somewhere you can only click on opt out. I was looking for where I can click to say that, maybe put in text somewhere that I didn't see. There's nothing guiding me to do it. Anyway, thank you, Melissa, for bringing it.
Yeah, sorry, just one other question. Did parents receive a copy of the survey before they gave consent?
Yes, it's been posted online for a few weeks, and it was also linked in the email that was sent to families.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment before we move? I think that is to summarize this. Thanks, Browan, for all the feedback that you gave here. And I hope Lian would kind of capture all of this and for future survey, and you'll get this And Amy, you know, we look forward to a copy of your presentation.
Yes, for sure. And I think we have, I know we are running short on time, so perhaps I can reply to some of Bronwyn's comments in a written format, and you can add those to the minutes.
Thank you very much. That is great. I mean, is it okay, Bronwyn? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know I covered a lot, but I
No, I think that's fine.
From
It's
a
fine,
parent's
Bronwyn.
lens, I'm not sure how many people have seen this themselves. And yeah, things need to change. And I appreciate the effort that has already gone into it, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
next item is PAC on SEAC. I think that is, I don't know, is it you or someone on the voting group, Melissa, telling us what it is? I mean, some of us, we know what it is, but, you know, tell us what it is and what can we get out of this for SEAC.
Yeah, that's great, thank you. So I think I'm gonna lead, and any group members are welcome to chime in after in the text box or comment after if I've missed anything. Just before I start, so Leanne, are we able to do screen sharing here, or are you just gonna scroll down?
It's up to you. If you think it will work, I can give you sharing ability. We can try.
Okay.
Just a sec.
So while Leanne's doing that, I'm just going to mention this is sort of a repeat of a repeat of a repeat that's come out over many months. It was sent out also with the meeting materials last week. I did ask for any comments in advance of the meeting to try to save meeting time. We did receive a few comments from one nice volunteer. Thank you. I tried to address those comments in very slight edits, which hopefully when we scroll down, you'll see as sort of a track changes on this, but really very small changes, which I'll explain to what was circulated before.
So you should be able to share now. I'll stop.
Hold on. Okay, let's see. Oh, sorry, can we use your document there, Leanne? How about you start with that document, and then I'll link to some websites. Sorry, everyone.
There.
Okay, great. So I would just like to quickly recap. I'm going to just be describing what PAC on SEAC does very quickly. Just show you highlights of a handful of their resources. They're great resources, and I think we can keep accessing these in the future. They're specifically designed to help SEACs be more effective and efficient and make everyone's life easier without having to reinvent the wheel. So we can keep unrolling different layers over time. We're going to today focus on the PAC calendar, which I'll show you, and you've also received links for. And I'm suggesting that after this very quick overview, we use a quick vote format to save time. So that would be vote yes, no, or need more information. And I'm hoping that if we get enough, hopefully yeses, but either yeses or nos and not need more information, that then we can finish this item somewhat expeditiously and then move on.
Sorry, Melissa, I'm just going to say if we come to a vote, it's a yes, no.
Sorry, what, Melissa, tell us what is, I mean, not everyone knows exactly.
Yes, that's what I'm about to do. I just gave an overview. So,
yes,
Leanne, if you could just scroll down a little bit. So I'm not going to read all of what was circulated, but just this part, what is PAC on SEAC? PAC was formed, okay, stop, Leanne, thank you. PAC was formed decades ago to help SEACs and their boards function more effectively to better support the education of special education students. PAC supports this mission in a variety of ways, including advocacy to and engagement with provincial ministries and providing a variety of resources to SEAC reps and SEACs across the province to help them operate more effectively. So the Provincial Parent Association's Advisory Committee on SEACs, that's a mouthful, is comprised of really experienced SEAC reps from a broad variety of provincial parent associations from across the province. I have been very active on PAC on SEAC for a number of years, and I will say I really feel like the junior member, the caliber and experience of people involved is really wonderful. So PAC has produced a variety of resources, as I've indicated. So I wonder, if I should, let me see. I'm trying to, Leanne, how do you want to do this? I think, can you give me back sharing screen? If you don't mind.
Sorry, a quick question here. Sir.
Yep.
What is the membership of PAC on SEAC? Is it individuals or association or organizations?
It's organized.
Maybe those are some of the things that we know. If it's an organization, how many member of SEAC are member of PAC on SEAC? I mean, so that we know that if how, you know, the
so
connection that we may have with,
It's parent advisory associations from across the province, pretty much representing all of the exceptionalities and types of organizations that we have on our SEAC and some other ones. And there's a representative and or an alternate from each group from across the province sitting on PAC on SEAC. So
that means you represent ABC on SEAC, on PAC on SEAC.
Yes, exactly.
And do we have other members from, you know, member association here who are also PAC from member of PAC on SEAC?
Yep. And sorry, I'm having connection problems and my screen is going funny. I'm going to turn off my camera.
Hi, it's David. I'll just tell you that I'm also on it.
I was about to say David sits on it. He's so active on K-12. He's a little less active on PAC.
Yeah. I mean, David, you're representing.
The Ontario Parents of Visually Impaired Children. It's a chance for the provincial organizations that have a right to be on SEACs to kind of get together at the provincial level.
Okay, I mean, yes, I also see, you know, Eliza saying that, you know, Easter Seal also sit on PAC on SEAC. Then those are some of the information that we, you know, useful information for us to know that, you know, this is a, you know, so that, anyway, I think that's a, go ahead, Melissa, those are some of the useful information.
What I would just say is what they're offering is shortcuts and easy ways for us to get at standard information with the greatest clarity. So on my screen right now, I'm not going to go into detail on anything. You can see that this is a PAC on SEAC resource guide. I encourage everybody when they have a chance to just scroll through any of these. So it gives you an idea, it gives you some great links and so on. I'm going to, okay, so, sorry, I'm having problems with my screen. Okay, so I'm not on the resources page right now. Sorry, I'm on a tired old computer. It's a little sticky. This gives you, you know, a link to a funding resource guide. Here, okay, my screen is obscured by the sharing menu, so I can't access things and I don't know how to get out of that. That is not going to help. Nope. Okay, I don't know how to no.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, I have provided a link to the I can't access it from this page.
Yeah, yes, I think that's you already.
I've provided a link to the calendar. Let's see if I can get it from here. I did have it open, but I can't touch it right now.
Melissa, I can try to open the link.
That would be great. Let's see if this brings it up. Okay, I think it's again opened a tab that I can't access. Maybe you can get it, Leanne. In the meantime, I'll just provide some context on this. So this calendar in particular, every month, it sets out a couple of types of information that should just automatically go on our calendar for staff to provide to us. This is very standard information provided across the province to all different kinds of SEACs. Here we have it here. If we just pause on September for a minute, thank you, Leanne. You can see there's just a few items. They're fairly standard. If we go into October, just a little below, you can see that there's a request for EQAO results. So this is an example of information the school board already has. They've already parsed it out for different profiles of students, special education exceptionalities, and so on. We're just asking in October, which is a logical time based on when school boards produce it, would they share it with SEAC in advance of our meeting? People can review it in advance. If they have any questions, they can ask questions. Similarly for October, the ONSIS data is produced automatically twice a year by every school board and sent to the Ministry of Education. We're just saying, please provide the special education portion of it to us. And we've talked about this many, many times over many, many months. And it continues. Some months are quite light, but it reduces some bureaucracy in us having to ask. It's just automatically on the calendar. It can be put in an action log and so on. And I would just like to provide context for this. So why is it helpful for us to have information? All of us, whether we're reps or staff, all share the same goal, which is to help special education students have as much success as possible. We all work very hard for that. We're all on the same team. So this information is helpful for SEAC reps, but I think it's probably also helpful for staff to have a refreshed look at it and see what pops out. For example, and this is not a gotcha exercise. This is an information sharing exercise. So let's say the EQAO data says that TDSB is doing a much better job than average across the province, and our special education students are performing better now than they have for the last 5 years. We can all be reassured by that and applaud that. On the other hand, if staff or reps happen to notice that there's one area of gaps, that's an easy place to look at and say, oh, wow, maybe we can do X, Y, Z to constructively address and improve that. So this is a mutual desire for success, collaboration, very standard across the province. And so I hope that it's very standard for us to accept it. I will also say that a lot of this information used to be provided at various times to our SEAC, but we all know that the last 3 years of pandemic and isolation and extra work burden for staff, as well as quite a bit of staff turnover in the last few years, I think has contributed to a loss of this history and shared practice. And this is a very good, easy, sort of low-hanging fruit structure to get it back on track. So that's why we're doing it. So Leanne, I don't know if you want to maybe just slowly scroll through so people can take a look at it. A number of the months really have either very little information or sort of limited categories of information. For example, BIPSA data or SIA or so on. That's important to know. It might be low incidence, but it's still helpful to have it sort of looked at every year. Okay, so there are other resources I would encourage people to look at, such as an effective practices handbook. There's a lot of terrific funding resource information. I was very happy to see that in the meeting materials this month, a few quick summary pages of tip sheets for budgets for funding guides were included. That was recently updated, literally a few weeks ago, by some of the terrific PAC on SEAC volunteers. And that is meant to be an easy sort of overview for every SEAC to start with at budget time. So Richard and the budget committee, and in fact, everybody else can look at that. So lots of great resources. If we could just scroll down, Leanne, please, to the motion. Just if you could, yeah, on that document, if you could just pause near the top of page 2 right there. So one thing that was added, you can see there's a little red vertical line on the side. One of the pieces of feedback was that the drafting in the motion wasn't clear. My intention was to say that let's use May and June to catch up on the information we haven't received this year yet, since most of it's already available and we've been talking about it every month for a really long time. But that piece about catch up, the feedback was it wasn't sufficiently clear in the motion. So if we go down to the motion, which is mostly page 3, Leanne, thank you for doing this, Leanne. Go down a little more. Yep, just to the top of the next page. Okay, so if people want to read the preambles, they can, but I think we've touched on this many times. The key part of it is if we move down to the bottom of the page, it says now, therefore it is resolved. There's 3 paragraphs. Leanne, if you can go down just a little further or let people read, okay. Oh, okay, so in this version, the track changes don't fully show what was added, but basically the only thing that was changed from the draft that was previously circulated is in paragraph 3, we attempted to clarify that we're trying to catch up. Because otherwise the feedback was, are you only asking this year for the May and June data? But that would be really unfortunate because we have been talking about this. And for example, Audley was kind enough to acknowledge last month that he would try to pull out the ONSIS data and so on. So I think the 2 main categories of information that are most broadly useful for everybody, but are also already available in the school board are the EQAO data and the ONSIS data. And that would be the part that would be most helpful for us to see, especially prior to our May meeting, because that may, sort of flag some issues for follow-up. And then whatever other information can be provided in May is great, and please, the balance of it for June anyway. I think this is helpful for reps, but also very helpful for staff. So on that, maybe I'll see if anyone has any questions or if we can move to a vote. Oh, Leanne is saying PAC is provincial. Yes, it is, not Toronto-based.
Yes, I see Audley, hand up.
Thanks, and through the chair, I just first of all, Melissa, thank you so much for speaking to this. I wanted to do this a little bit later in the agenda, but I also want this individual to speak to PAC on CX. So it's my pleasure to introduce my counterpart as the associate director that just joined the board. It's Louise Sarisco, and she's will be working with SEAC as the liaison from senior team moving forward. And so I wanted to introduce her and also welcome her to the TDSB. We are really looking forward to working with her, and part of the expertise and skill set that Louise brings is that she has served in the capacity of working through as one of the leaders in the province on special education. And so we're very, very fortunate to have her here in the TDSB, and also having her working with SEAC moving forward. So I know that Louise, if it's possible for you to just make a few comments on this one, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Audley, and I hope everyone can hear me. Yes. Awesome. Hello. It is such a sincere pleasure to meet all of you. My name's Louise. In my last parts of my career, a couple of things to highlight for you is I worked in the Peel District School Board as a superintendent of special education. And I then became the director of the Special Education Success for All branch at the Ministry of Education. So I'm going to say that supporting students with special education needs is a very, very important passion and love of mine. Each of you come to these meetings every single month because you want your children, for the most part, or the families that you work alongside and champion for, to have equitable access to outstanding outcomes. And we as staff representing the Toronto District School Board and working tirelessly share that same goal. I'm really listening intently to the discussion this evening, and it seems predominantly there is a thirst for data and for holding accountability to that outcome. So Melissa, I want to say thank you very much for highlighting PAC on SEAC. It is a spectacular resource, and the individuals who sit on PAC, like David, are highly, highly knowledgeable, wise individuals who are strong advocates. Chair Jean-Paul, for consideration to the committee, my involvement with PAC and their resource is really that it is a resource that is an excellent touchstone for us to create a year at a glance, to be saying all of these elements in their draft calendar are really important for us to be incorporating in all of our agendas. Adopting them as they are written may and will likely not fit the rhythm of Toronto where the data is available for us. I wouldn't suggest that adopting it as it is written will serve our combined interests. In regards to the request for data as it is written, again, what I find really, really very powerful is creating an action plan that is really in support of the trustees' multi-year strategic plan. And I know the trustees are actively consulting right now in that creation. And I understand that you are hoping for special education to be a driver, and that request should be put forward for the trustees for their deliberation. But from that multi-year strategic plan and the goals that we set together as SEAC and staff will inform the data points that you are wanting to see and that we want to see as clear indicators on the progress that we are making. My strong recommendation would for us to be thoughtful about that in what data points we want to be including in that plan. Ultimately for trustees, there are governors, and their multi-year strategic plan will need to incorporate many of the data points. Through our relationship together, what I'm hoping in short order and then a much longer term plan is for us to be strategic about the data that you are wanting to see. The number of SIP claims for sure is an important data points. I'm really interested in knowing what our process is to be submitting those SIP claims to the province. So, Chair, I would just be suggesting that perhaps if I could spend some time with you and the Vice Chair talking about what the offering is on that PAC resource and how we can incorporate it for Toronto, I think it will be more thoughtful than as it is written right now. So just I wanted to put that caution on the floor for you to be thinking about as a committee. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, Jean-Paul.
Okay, thanks, Louise, and welcome on board. Happy to have you. And we hope we'll kind of benefit from all your experience, to ultimately, get our children, our students with special need, to reach their full potential as required under the Education Act.
I'm just going to jump. Oh, sorry. Before we go to the hands up, if I could just jump in for a moment. Louise, welcome, and we're delighted to have you. I just want to say on the PAC on SEAC calendar in particular, I know this is your first time hearing about this. For some of us, we have heard this story many times before and are quite frustrated that nothing has happened either with the calendar or with parts of it like ONSIS and EQAO
Right.
data. So what I would like to suggest for expediency, because I know we also have a very full calendar, is let's just vote to adopt the calendar, and then let's have some conversations behind the scenes if necessary, where staff can come back and say, oh, in TDSB, we don't get the X kind of data. until this date. So how about if we move it forward a month or that sort of thing? But these requests are from SEAC reps so that we can provide advice and recommendation to the board. And there's a history of concern that our requests have not been responded to by staff, or that the data isn't forthcoming. So it feels a little uncomfortable to have another staff person inserted as a filter to say what we can't have. So maybe we could do this more collaboratively, pass this simple calendar today, and agree to work collaboratively on sharing any time challenges or any other suggestions you might have.
I think, I understand, Melissa, we have been around for, I share some of the, the concern and the frustration that has been raised even tonight. And, but I think that let us reflect on what Louise, just shared with us. I think that is, and have that conversation that she's suggesting, that will be, my suggestion here. I think that is, and I can say that, we have been, having, some of the things, some traction around data. And we already have a little action plan on the data from the motion that we passed, last month. No, the month before in February. Then that is, let us have that and, and go through this. And this is really one thing that you will probably do is to see what is in this PAC calendar for May, and trying to see if we can build what is in the PAC calendar for May, build that in the agenda of our agenda for May meeting, to see if we can do that, and have a fulsome conversation when we'll probably have a conversation with Louise before that, and to see how we bring the whole kind of some of the key suggestion that we'll take out of this PAC resources and bring back in the motion for next month. That will be my suggestion.
I'm sorry, Jean-Paul.
That will be my suggestion. I'm sorry. I'll come back to you, Melissa. I see Steve and Nora.
Just as the moving party, I would like to say I request a vote on
Melissa, please, can you let Steve, share what you want to say, share, and then Nora. And sorry, I also have Sarah. It's dark. I mean, your hand is dark. When I say sorry, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you from staff for the information and the opinions. As most of you know, I have commented on this topic. I don't disagree that the PAC on SEAC information is not important. What I do believe, though, is what was just said, is that it does not sync up to what the TDSB does. So the only solution is we need a calendar that takes the PAC on SEAC information requests and match it to the TDSB timelines, which is exactly what was just suggested.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Voting on a motion and approving a calendar that we can't follow. We can't follow PAC on SEAC. It doesn't match TDSB. It never has, it never will. TDSB also has, this SEAC also has an enormous number of other issues that come up that need to be discussed, but often aren't. So if someone takes the PAC on SEAC calendar information month by month, but works it into a TDSB timeline, which is what was just offered by staff, forgive me for not remembering your name, then that is the only way it will work. That is what we need. And that is something that has never been actually offered before. So those are my two thoughts.
Thank you,
I don't
Steve.
think it's appropriate to vote on something that we cannot use.
Thank you. I think, you now Sarah, and after that, Nora.
Thank you. I just want to say welcome to Louise, and I appreciate meeting you on this meeting. But I have to say that as a new member, I have some concerns about process. I'm a little bit taken aback that we have a motion on the table, and we're not actually taking, I think, even if we're not following something like Bruno or Roberts to the letter, we're not taking process seriously enough. Like I'm actually really very concerned that we have people commenting on the motion from the floor to remove it. This is not new. I'm a new member, but this is not new to me. I'm perfectly willing and ready to vote on this. So I'm very unclear about the process that we're following. Is this how it works? Do we have a structure for how motions are dealt with within SEAC? Because this is not something that I have ever experienced in any of my board work, any of my community organization work in the past, any of my union work. So I'm a little bit confused. I would like to hear, Chair, if you can give me some information on that before we move forward, but I don't understand the process for pulling the motion within the context that has just occurred.
I think that is, thanks for sharing your thought on the process. I think that is, what we doing now is really, I don't know if you were there when we brought up the motion about, data requests that went all the way up to the board. We're doing exactly the same thing here. I mean, that is before we go into a vote, just to make sure that we don't want to get this and put this to the vote and see that for example that is not going forward. I mean, the thing that's what we're trying to see here, and to be comfortable with something that it's a concern. I mean, that is the consensus. After this conversation, when we see that the consensus is that we take another look at this and trying to see no one is disagreeing here that these resources, this Park ONSIA resources are important, good resources to be tapped into. I mean, and that is the only thing is that we don't want also to take this and then go into vote. We may change a few things here, even if we want to put this into vote, and that's how the things have has always worked, and this is not like you have been on SEAC for more than 10 years, and also sitting on other boards. AMAPSIO is one. I think that is that's exactly. I mean, I'm sorry that is not what we're doing now here is not exactly your experience. And Nora.
Thanks. I think my feelings are akin to Melissa's in the sense that I'd like to see at least the content of it passed to make sure that everything that's listed to be discussed is discussed. The timeline, it does become important because Jean-Paul, our motion was passed in February. Staff will hear about that in May. By the time budget decisions are already happening, our information will not get to trustees till May. So PAC is sort of aware of the fact that everything grinds at the speed of a glacier. So a little bit, and I understand, and Louise is here, who I respect immensely, but I have to say, I need to see some data. I have not seen data from our motion. I know you said we're getting slack. Till I see it in my hand, Jean-Paul, I don't trust it. Till I see something passed, I'm sorry. Like for me, trust is broken without motions right now. That's just how I'm feeling.
Okay, so yes. I said, Melissa, I wanted to say something before I go back to Melissa. Wanted to say something.
I just
wanted to let other people talk now. Back to you.
Yes. Okay, so I understand what you're saying, you and Steve and Louise, but I share Nora's concern and Sarah's process concern. So this is a very straightforward, easy thing to do. We've been talking about it every month for 6 months. The information requested is normal information. I've been indicating, and I think as Louise gets to know RCAC better, people are reasonable when treated reasonably. So let's pass this, fully recognizing that somebody on staff may come to us in the middle of the month, not the day of the meeting, and say, oh, this type of information, this one specific category is not available in this month at TDSB, but we'll send it to you 3 weeks later or whatever. We're very reasonable about that. But we need to make progress, and the reluctance to accept this minimal organizational tool is so concerning on so many fronts. Even the fact that we're spending so much time every month talking about it. There's so many other things we need to talk about. Let's just pass this, please, and move on. And we will be very reasonable and very open to collaboration and dialogue, but let's move on, please.
Yeah,
If you have a motion, I think we need to vote on it.
You know, I think that is, I think that it's not fair to say that we have been discussing this motion for the last 6 months. It's not fair to say that. I think that it was not part of last month's agenda. The previous month agenda, it was not part of it. I think that it is not fair to say that. But it is fair to say that we have been discussing the data need for way back, even before it's more than 6 months. That's what is fair to say. I think that's, and what I'm saying here, I think that is, taking the Park on Share calendar and kind of put it into, the calendar. And we all know that at the beginning of this year, we were discussing about our own calendar. That's why we were doing all this mapping exercise every month, to try to design our own in-house, what I would call in-house calendar. That's what we have been doing. I think and that's exactly the reason why I'm saying that, we take, what is the substance of what is here. We cannot adopt something, what would happen with January? What will happen with what is January in the park calendar? We already in April now, going into May. We're adopting a calendar that includes January, February, March, and April. I think those are the things that, we take the substance from this. And in the meantime, what I'm saying, and taking what is required into May calendar or June or something, we take the substance, we put that into a recommendation that we vote on now to say that we're building that into what we do. I think that is, and it is really, I think it's reasonable to do things that way. That's what I'm saying. I think that is, but if in the end, we all say that that's what we want to vote this, even if it doesn't work perfectly with TDSB, we just vote because we need to vote. I think that is, let us not do something because of the previous frustration what we already had. I think that I'll let this Steve, Louise, and Nora speak to this, and we'll make a decision to go forward.
Sorry, Jean-Paul, am I recognized?
Yes, Louise, go ahead.
Okay,
please.
thank you very much. And
Sorry,
no, it's okay. And thank you for your comments and to everyone here. I am sensing just a lot of frustration, and I'm sorry that this level of frustration exists. You don't know me. A couple of you know me very, very well. I am confident that through time we are going to be building a strong, trusting relationship. I feel it necessary to give you some advice and just remind you from a parliamentary perspective to Sarah's point that in whatever motion that SEAC wants to consider this evening, it is a recommendation. You're an advisory committee to the full board of trustees. So SEAC does not have the authority. Only the full board of governing trustees has the authority to direct the director to be generating any kind of reports. My assurance to each of you is that we together will build a plan and a reporting structure for staff to be collaborating with you, to be monitoring the success of the work that we do together. We have a shared goal. This has clearly been developing for some period of time, and I obviously want to be very respectful of the motion that is on the floor. You may wish to consider framing it in such a way that SEAC recommends to the Board of Trustees, and you could, my suggestion to you is to be keeping it high level, to be developing a reporting plan that is inclusive of data that spans the year, that is built in collaboration with SEAC chair and co-chair, something like that. So we're getting to that same need, but my previous caution about adopting a calendar that really does not align with the DSB calendar of data availability, nor have I taken a look at what is PAC. I haven't seen it for some time to see, is there any data on there that we would have a challenge creating for you? I doubt it, but I would want to have eyes on it. So I am here to serve and really to build a trusting relationship with each of you. You give so much of your time and wisdom. Let's build it together, and we can start that immediately. And I know that staff in my conversation with Nandy have been working very diligently in thinking about the data that we'll be presenting to you. So through you, Jean-Paul, through you, Chair, that's just for consideration to be making sure that your motion does align with your mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. I saw Steve and then Nora too.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment. The fact that we want a calendar that addresses the unique needs of the TDSB, the way we receive them, also wanting to have the data requirements met that PAC on CX suggests. I'm not sure that a motion is exactly the way we want to go. I think because the motion goes to board, I think what we really want is a SEAC process, something that we can say, here are the dates for the requests of information. It's a SEAC calendar we're creating, not a board calendar. So I'm not sure if it's really a motion more than an undertaking amongst ourselves to create the actual date requests and times, etc., and then send those requests via undertakings to staff, because the board's of trustees is not really going to understand what it is we're asking for, and nor are they really going to be interested in it. But if we have a calendar that states the dates when we want things, that matches with what the TDSB system provides, we can get all the information we're looking for. It's just that creating that calendar is not an easy task, as anybody who's tried it knows. It takes a lot of effort, and we're all busy people. So those are my 2 cents. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Nora, you also had something to add, if not.
No, I'm good. I said my piece. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that is, building on what, Louise and, also Steve and what I already said is that, the destination of, for this motion is, what we usually call the audience is the Board of Trustees. And if we send this, the way that is now written to them, and what will be our expectation? I mean, say that go and adopt, take the PAC on CEAC calendar. I mean, I don't know. those are the things that I'm saying that, you know what, let us frame. It will maybe take another look at this and the substance. Take the substance here and build a motion that will go to the board, similar to the one that we had in February. In the meantime, that will be my suggestion. And that after this, if it is the consensus is that I'm seeing, you know, through the chat that everyone wants to go to vote, we vote. And now that is, you know, to see what everyone will say formally, and then go from there. Yes, Isabella. What quick thing do you want to say before?
I just wanted to say that this particular schedule, PAC on SEAC, I actually brought to the attention of the working group a number of months ago, and I did that because that calendar is based on the various processes that school boards already follow. And it's there to be employed by other Ontario school boards to make sure that SEACs actually have the information necessary. So I don't even understand where we're having this discussion where, you know, this whole, you know, this calendar plus the guide they provided for us are there to help us. And obviously they're made in such a way that, you know, that will assist us as opposed to, you know, create confusion or trouble. That's why I'm just confused. Why are we diverting this motion when, you know, we can always add to it? That's all.
Yeah, I think that, do you want to say that you're saying that this is, we're voting this for us, to us, a way that we work, and not voting this motion to send it a recommendation for the board? That's what we're saying?
What I'm saying is that we have a motion on the table that many of the SEAC members have been thinking about, and we've looked at the schedule and through the entire package that's put together by PAC on SEAC. And so we obviously thought about it for a while. And so all I'm saying is, can we just vote on this motion? There's been so many delays, and every single thing we're trying to accomplish just seems to be delayed from month to month. And it's very difficult to provide proper guidance and, you know, and recommendations when we don't have the full picture in place. So this is just a way to at least get this started. That's all.
Yes, Louise.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. So if I may just extrapolate a little bit more about what I was talking about, the governance responsibility of the Board of Trustees, and let me take you into the motion. So be it resolved and move that. Number 2, the PAC on SEAC annual calendar is hereby immediately adopted by SEAC and the TDSB staff. I'll stop that sentence. Chair, the SEAC does not have the authority to direct staff. So from a parliamentary procedural perspective, the motion can't be in order. SEAC has to be making recommendations to the Board of Trustees. Okay, so that's really important as you consider what is before you.
Yes, that is a good point. I saw that, and that is something that we cannot, you know, we're making a recommendation to the board. I mean, we cannot, you know, adopt a motion that we have no control over staff here. I mean, that is clear. They're here to support us. You know, building on this, you know, adopted by SEAC and staff, TDSB staff. That is not something that I don't know. I mean, that's some of the things that when I saw this, I said we should have, you know, find a way. I mean, that is to get it. And I understand that. Yeah, again, I want to say this, what I already said. I understand that, you know, data was an issue here. I mean, that is. And some of the frustration that we have is because of some of the data requests. But I don't think this is the first time that we're having this motion here. We're discussing this motion.
And I'm here to support.
Building on that to say that we have been, kind of discussing this for 6 months. As already said, it's not fair to say that.
Yeah, and I appreciate where we are in the level of frustration and asking a stranger, having a stranger say, "Please trust me." I get it completely. Yeah. The trust is not there.
Melissa, go ahead, please.
Yes, I don't want to debate it any further. I just do want to say I understand Louise's point about paragraph 2, but I respectfully, very respectfully, disagree. I think it's splitting hairs. I have been a lawyer for over 3 decades. I think that we can all view this as perhaps not perfect, but I think it conveys the essence of what we're trying to do. You are undertaking to us to be reasonable, collaborative, and accommodating, and I speak on behalf of all of us that we will similarly reciprocate on that, be reasonable, accommodating, and collaborative. But you're saying that you want to work with us and support us, but you're also asking us to further delay the motion based on technicalities. So the wording may not be perfect. I think it's sufficient. I think that we have a vote and we have lots of other things that we need to move on to. If the vote is defeated, I think that's very unfortunate because then we're having to spend time on this again, another month with further drafting of the motion. This was sent out in advance, asking for advance comments. Louise, I appreciate you saying that you haven't read the PAC calendar recently. It's really not scary, I think, but if there's something that doesn't work for TDSB, with all of TDSB's 30,000 staff, then we'll work on making it work. Thank you.
Yes, Trustee Ahad.
So I'm meant to observe. So someone who knows more, please jump in. But I can't help it because I know. I want to make sure that this is effective. Couldn't someone who is an active member of the committee not propose a change, an amendment to the motion to have it adopted by SEAC and put forward to the TDSB board? Is that something, I don't know if that was discussed by email across members. I'm not privy to that, but if that hasn't been considered, I would invite the members to consider that and put forward if it's felt to be appropriate to do so.
Thank you, Trustee. That sounds great, and I endorse that. If somebody could capture that, Leanne. Let's just pass the motion and not let perfect hair splitting get in the way of doing something good. Thank you.
Any comment? Richard, I didn't hear from you. Richard, are you here?
Absolutely, Jean-Paul, I am here. I guess earlier on I had shared with Melissa some comments that I had. Obviously, I see the importance of, at least looking at the PAC on SEAC calendar, figuring out how we can adopt it and how we can benefit from the information that it provides, because it is a milestone that identifies when information is available. So even just bringing that information to SEAC when it is available by staff, I think would be a big step forward. How we then use that information, I think we can look at over time. But I think it would be important just to receive that information like we do with correspondence and everything else. So what is the mechanism that we can put in place to get this information into our hands, as noted, as an advisory board?
Okay. I think that is there anyone, we all read this. Is there anyone has a change or kind of amendment to the motion the way it is written now? Does anyone have any?
Trustee Earhart, if you might just repeat what you said for Leanne's benefit.
No, I think Melissa, please, I'm talking here. Does anyone has anything, any
Chair,
amendment?
I do, Chair, if I may?
Yes, go. Yes, please.
Could I ask any of the people involved with drafting the motion if they would be willing to put forward an amendment, even a friendly amendment? Is there something that we could put on the table to kind of move things ahead and progress with this? Oh, here we have one. Thank you. Yeah, that's all I was going to ask from the amendment.
And I'm, SEAC members, this is just me listening. I think this is the essence of what you're asking for consideration of board wordsmithing. So it's in order because it's a recommendation to the Board of Trustees.
I'm sorry, that's not reflecting the amendment that Trustee Earhart suggested. That is really gutting and abandoning using the PAC on SEAC calendar. I would like to propose a different friendly amendment as a member of the committee, which Trustee Earhart, please correct me if I got it wrong. Paragraph 2 be changed to say that is hereby immediately adopted by SEAC and referred to the TDSB board to be used as a tool. Was it something like that, Trustee?
I think, but someone that knows procedure better, and I'm not commenting on any of the innards other than just refer to the board. Because I haven't read all of this and haven't been privy, but that was what I meant, yes.
I think then the phrase would continue to be to the TDSB board to be used by SEAC and staff as a tool, etc.
Okay, I mean, now that is
and maybe take out the word "the education" to help us all more effectively support TDSB special education students. Would that be friendly?
Sorry, Trustee Dawson here. I have a comment maybe in just building or clarifying on what Trustee Earhart was saying. Is that okay?
Please.
Yes, go ahead, Trustee Dawson.
I think that the inclusion of staff was part of the issue. The TDSB, the Board of Trustees, we do not direct staff to do anything. Our only employee is the Director of Education. So there would need to be like an amended reference to that, or simply that I think the language was that for SEAC to adopt it, and for the board to follow suit. I think that's the essence of what you're recommending. I do see what you're saying though with staff. Trustee Earhart, do you have any suggestions as to how to put it in with the director, or am I just getting too detailed? Okay.
Yeah, I'm jumping in because I don't know in our procedure, because we can't direct staff either as a board. Right? We're not empowered to do that. And I haven't read what SEAC is empowered to do in the legislation, but I would doubt that SEAC would be empowered to do that either. That's my guess. So I think you could refer it to the board for our consideration for how it could be used. I think how Louise had framed some of that could be kept, but I recognize that she had taken out that PAC had been removed. So, but I think it's just not when staff are included, that's when it becomes, I believe that's when it becomes out of order based on what we're empowered to do.
That's what we are increasingly learning as trustees, right? So when we do our own motions, this is the information that we're being told as well, that any recommendations to staff are through the director or their designate. So that might be a bit out of scope for this, but I think what you have here is great with just the removal of that small thing.
Okay, I think thank you. I think that is almost, sorry, it's almost 9.
The chat to try to reflect Trustee Dawson's comment.
It's almost 9. I think that is, I need a motion to, if, I need your indulgence here to extend the meeting up to maybe 20 minutes, because we need to hear from staff for the report.
Yeah, if no one else is moving, I'll move to extend the meeting for half an hour. I don't think 20 minutes is going to accomplish it. We do want to hear from staff.
Yeah, I think that's, thank you, Melissa. Anyone, seconding? Yeah, Nora, thank you. I mean, is anyone against of extending the meeting for half an hour? I'm sorry that we have to do it today. Okay, extend it. Someone was talking, when I was asking for the motion because it's almost 9. That is, we needed to have this.
I think perhaps we're at the point where we have an amendment in there and it's time to vote.
There was someone who was, talking there. I mean, yes, I see the. And first of all, going back to the Robert rule, the initial motion, I'm assuming that, you propose it, no, Melissa. And now we're going into the amendment of the proposed motion. We need to have someone to propose the amendment, the amendment of this motion, the motion that is initially put forward, and which is the person who is typing. Can you read it aloud so that we know what is what we have now?
I wonder if David might vote before he leaves. Sorry, he's just put in the chat he has to go.
No, I think that we need to make sure that we don't want to. Let us do this first and to make sure that what we vote. Adopt the SEAC and refer to the TDSB and Director of Education to be used by SEAC as a tool and structure to help us more. I think that is,
Could I just ask the trustees, is there a gap in not referring to staff in paragraph 2?
Can you explain, exactly what is the expectation, the way that is written now? When we refer this to, the TDSB.
So I think when you refer something to the TDSB, we then refer it to the Director of Education. Is that correct, Sarah? Like, would you think that whole thing should be taken out? What are your thoughts, Sarah?
I'm still learning. I think it's for us to do the referrals then. My understanding is for motions, they can only go to us. And so also in point 3, and I apologize, Jean-Paul, because you've been doing just such a wonderful job to keep us all on time, to keep everybody on time here. And here we go, jumping in. I think the staff are requested to provide. I don't believe that requests can be made of staff. So it would have to be referred to the board to seek out to work collaboratively for information provision or something like that, I think.
Yeah, I think so in number 2, I would just take out the Director of Education entirely, and then the board will decide to refer it to the director. And then, as Sarah said, the third item, it can keep the spirit of what you want, right? Like, it's very clear that you have sought information and not received it. And so what you're asking for is the information. So a way to phrase that without directly seeking a particular action from the staff, but rather the collection of the information, if that makes sense.
So just exactly in the middle there, the word staff, could that be replaced with, instead of staff are, just say it is requested to provide to SEAC? Would that cover your concern?
I think so. Would you agree, Sarah? Yeah, I think so.
I think so. I don't know if Louise or Audley or anybody else or Jean-Paul, if there's
I think that is I don't know if you know, again, it's me here. I mean, that is, we already, if you're already doing something there saying that, you know, to get some change to the way that, to the process, I don't think we should probably, you know, kind of blaming someone here. I mean, we're not pointing, but blaming, saying that we have been asking repeatedly. I mean, that is those things that my experience in, you know, even in my day job doing some of this work, we don't put a language like that when we put in emotion, even if this is something that has happened.
From a trustee's perspective, I think sometimes inflammatory language is okay coming from a community advisory
Sorry,
committee.
I 100% agree with Alexis. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
As a former committee co-chair, if you've been asking
And
for something
advocating, you got to do it. It's time to be loud. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Okay, I'll stop talking. I know it's not my meeting.
Maybe that part where you're stuck, Leanne, could say something. It is requested that this information be provided to SEAC, something like that.
Okay, as you know, the motion has been, sorry, I didn't know, I recognize, you know, Nandi, who didn't speak things. Go ahead, Nandi.
I'll pass it over to Audley to have my spot. But Jean-Paul, my understanding was that the co-chairs would bring it back to SEAC to have a discussion about which data sets, if any, to bring when. And so number 3 is not entirely accurate in the sense that it wasn't that we weren't providing the data and being repeatedly asked. It was that the co-chairs were going to bring it back to SEAC to either say, yes, we're going to go with the calendar format, and then determine when it was going to happen. So that's what we were waiting on there. And the second part is, as everybody knows, we've been working to get the data sets ready for the next FBEC meeting, which was a direction from trustees to the director. And so we're prioritizing that data set. So I would say that number 3 is not entirely accurate. Thanks. Audley?
And through the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Audley.
Thank you. In looking at, and I think maybe part of this is as we look at how we bring motions forward and look at the governance piece of this, when a motion is brought forward by SEAC or any other CAC, what takes place is that it is normally the meeting, we now get to decide what particular committee it goes to. So most of the times, historically, we've always sent these particular motions to PSSC, and PSSC takes place tomorrow. You would not actually be allowed to put a motion to PSSC for tomorrow based on the reality that agenda setting and agenda clearing has already gone. So now we're looking at the next PSSC for May. In this motion, it outlines before May the 8th. I don't have the actual Thank you for putting Programs and School Services Committee. I don't know the actual date for the Programs and School Services Committee in May, but it may not actually be before May the 8th. So there's some logistics aspects of how we bring motions and the timing of them that I think we need to look at as we bring motions forward, and it's also working with staff in order to look at some of the timing around the motions, because we're happy to go through with individuals around motions if we're aware of them beforehand in order to have those conversations, because I think that might help and deal with some aspects of the frustration around parts of motions that may be challenging or problematic, because I don't believe that May the 8th, unless it goes to a different committee, and that would be a conversation that would need to be had. Thanks. Thank you, May 10th. So.
Okay, you know, I saw Julie. You're on mute, Julie.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I think it's important that we listen to Louise and staff when wording the you know, just hereby immediately, for example, and like instead saying recommended. Like, I'm kind of being on SEAC. I think it's the most effective way to get something done is working together, not a SEAC versus staff sort of thing. And just the way it's worded, and just kind of, I understand the frustration, you know, across the board. But I don't know if this motion is a great way to go about it. So I just wanted to kind of raise that point, because I want it, you know, all this work that Melissa's doing to put this together, and that we're taking the time to discuss this. If this does pass, it's just going to be an empty motion if we're not working together with staff and with Louise. So just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Is it just me or did we lose Jean-Paul?
That's what I'm always looking for as well.
In the meantime, perhaps Louise, your hand is raised. You might speak while we try to find him again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Melissa. And again, SEAC members, I really am before you saying, let's collaborate. I think that we could be developing something in draft. The chair and the vice chair and staff can be reviewing the PAC calendar. We could be drafting something, because I know staff have already been considering, and be having as a discussion item for next month, which I think is going to be more timely than flowing this through a motion for trustees. Another consideration is that you could be writing to correspondence to the chair on behalf of SEAC to be expressing frustration or what have you, because I think bringing voice to what has been shared this evening is important. So that would be another avenue, rather than worrying about the wordsmithing, because staff are here to completely support what your ask is. I'm just trying to make sure that your motion is technically in order according to Robert. So I'm going to just bring to your attention, if you do want to continue wordsmithing, that saying it is hereby adopted by SEAC or referred to the TDSB are problematic, because you wouldn't have authority to do that. What is referred to the TDSB as a tool, and so on. It would have to be a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. So just be thinking about that phraseology, recommendation to the Board of Trustees, to drive if you're wanting to pursue your motion, Melissa. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate your comments, Louise. I am so conscious of quite a bit of agenda that needs to be delivered, and we don't have our vice chair here today. We lost Jean-Paul. Can I make a suggestion, because I am a practical person? Could we vote on this motion, if that's okay with everyone and with Leanne? And whatever suggestions you have for tweaking, Louise, if you'd like to work on it offline and we pass another motion next month that's been sent around that everybody can read and that we don't need to spend much time on, that's also an option. So I said before you had made any comments, Louise, we want to work collaboratively. This is never a gotcha exercise. We're all on the same team. We all want the same things. But you have noted there has been a very long time with a lot of frustration and no information either volunteered or provided, even when repeatedly asked from our point of view. So now we're at that next level, and we'd like to show that we have some consensus that we like this information. So perhaps we could vote. I see Jean-Paul came back on. Jean-Paul, we were just killing time a little bit while you were gone, and I'm hoping we can vote soon. Jean-Paul, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think that is, we were, you know, there was a discussion around the third part. This, what I see here is I don't know what I have. Did you review this note? So what is the final version here? The version what we want to vote on.
So Chair, one idea that Melissa had, I think, for the committee to be thinking about was actually to be bringing a fulsome motion that is reflective of the calendar that has been worked on with staff and committee members, that really is in order, flags the issues for the Board of Trustees that will pass easily, because it again, it is in order and doesn't pose difficulties for next month. And I think with staff and the chair and the vice chair, between now and then, we can have a draft calendar to be discussing at the next meeting. So if that is welcome, this motion can be withdrawn or deferred as parliamentary actions. But Melissa, if you're wanting to pursue it, I think there was a comment from Trustee Dawson to vote on it and have it go through the decision making, and those actions can still happen behind the scenes.
Right. So I think maybe I just was misunderstood. What I was suggesting is just pass this motion today, so we have a starting point. And then we're very happy to collaboratively work on building a calendar, circulating something, if necessary, passing a motion, but I view a motion as really a sign of desperation that the collaboration isn't working. So we just want a starting point and hopefully to move on. So if this got everybody's attention and got us to that level of conversation, then it was successful. And nobody's going to stick to the letter of each word, in my view. We have substantive matters to focus on.
It was not that, I mean, you know, because now when you say that before the May 8th, the deadline for May 8th, I think there's you know, I heard that the PSSC meeting, the next PSSC meeting will be after the one that is tomorrow, will be May 10. And that means this third part of the motion, is it something that we can consider, you know, kind of moving and voting with the 1 and 2? I'm just asking you, Melissa.
I recognize, Jean-Paul, that you may or may not, but you may not be voting in favor of this motion as drafted, but we have a motion on the table. We've spent a long time talking about it. It does seem like you keep looking for excuses to not pass it.
No, that's not excuses. I mean, that is, you know, I really, I'm realistic. It's to be realistic. And also, you know, as you see, there are some of the wording here, some of the things that I've been saying here, I've been around. I'm not sure that that is exactly what I felt too. I mean, that is expressing what, I mean, honestly expressing what I feel. I mean, I already said this. I mean, when we said that this is the first time that we're having this motion here, and saying that we have been discussing this motion in the past, it's not something that I would not say.
I apologize for any inelegant wording. I just think that at this point, we've heard everybody's views. People are repeating themselves. Could we vote?
I saw that, Melissa. I saw that there's. Well, now, if you put this motion forward, if you want to keep the tree, as I'm suggesting that we remove the tree and we go to pass the vote, go on to vote on the motion the way it is. I think that's what I'm suggesting here, so that it's always better to have everyone, voting unanimously rather than having people not voting for.
I recognize that, but part of our purpose in passing a motion with the whereas clauses and the resolution is to communicate to the trustees what's going on, because otherwise they don't know. We're very lucky to have 2 new trustees here. Thank you very much for coming. I'm sorry this was such an unusual meeting and it's dragging on so long. Thank you so much. But Trustee Dawson has indicated it's not unusual for community advisory committees to have some frustration, and it's fair if we try to, as best we can in an imperfect world, convey to the trustees what we think. So this isn't the be all and the end all. This is just a starting point. But could we vote? If we pass it, great. If we don't pass it, even if we do pass it, let's work offline before the next meeting to provide something to everyone to consider well in advance that might cross every I or cross every T and dot every I. But if we try to make, with respect, if we try to make every little thing perfect, then we're going to get very little done.
No, I don't think so. I think that is, let us, if you put the motion forward, and let us go on and vote to see what what the outcome here.
So before, if there's a vote, can I just clarify, please, that staff do not vote. All community reps have a vote, and no alternate members unless they are replacing the member.
Yes, I think that, and I think, and we need first of all, we need someone who second Melissa on, because Melissa, I'm assuming that Melissa, is proposing, who is Melissa, and we need a second.
I moved. Anyone on the, for example, EPWG?
Sorry,
okay, Bronwyn, we need a seconder. Bronwyn has just voted in favor. Bronwyn, can you second?
No, the second. We need a seconder first before we vote. Yes, only.
I'm sorry, but point of order. I'm still going to go back to the May 8th SEAC meeting. If this motion passes and it goes to board, the committee, it's going to committee on May the 10th. It's going to committee on May the 10th. So if it's going to committee, staff would not be bringing back to SEAC by May the 8th the information that you're asking for. It goes to committee on May the 10th, PSSC. So I just want to make that clear, like by its very definition, it will not happen, part 3, by definition.
Audley, thank you very much for that comment. You remind me.
I think Melissa, please, Melissa, before there's a chair, please, Melissa. Sorry, please. I'm sorry that I have to do that. I think that is, one thing that will be noted is that I think, Leanne, we have to put this in the minute, saying that having some of this conversation that staff is, Audley is saying here, so that we don't turn around and say that May 8th, we didn't have what we needed. Staff warned us that about the timeline after we vote on the motion. If the motion passed, that's clear. We won't be coming back and saying that we didn't have anything. That means we're voting this in knowing that May 8th, before May 8th won't happen because they warn us. And we are consciously voting with that in mind. That's only what I say. Yes, Melissa says, anything that you want to say before we go into the vote?
Thank you, Jean-Paul. I just wanted to say, and I forgot to mention it at the beginning, I really hope that staff is working on providing us with as much of this information as possible for our May meeting, regardless of whether this motion passes or not. This is information that's helpful for us, it's helpful for them, but most importantly, it's helpful for all of us to best support our students. So whether this is going to be heard at a meeting on May 10th based on a motion today, or spending more time on a motion in May 8th, I'm hoping that this information is being collected and voluntarily, collaboratively, in good faith, being provided to us as soon as it can be, including before our May meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, so sorry for, I think that is, the trustee from the feedback, the previous motion the board already directed the Director of Education to provide us with the data that we requested through the motion that we passed in February. And now we're coming with this, we say that I think that we need to make, to make sure that it is, our request, I'm sorry saying that. I mean, and I'm hoping that they will be prioritizing what were requested through the motion that we passed on February 13th. And that was presented at the feedback meeting on March 29th. I think that's exactly, I think that we clear on that. If we want to get additional thing for them to do, I don't know. I mean, that is, and it was clear at the meeting. I think Nora can back me up here. It was clear at that feedback meeting that it was prioritized based on, that's the trustee. I mean, the trustee, the people we're sending this to, that's exactly what they directed the director to do. And that's what they're doing. And we expect them to be doing that. They have two timelines. One is April. The second one is in the fall. And then they let us, I mean, reasonably do this, and knowing that they're telling us that, what, and now if we go to, if this goes to the PSSC in May, and the trustee there will probably direct them again to do some of these things, and that is, but we won't have it necessary, before May 8th. Anyway, I think that we have Melissa, kind of, and I said, in a minute to clearly capture some of these caveats that we already have here for this motion, and Melissa is moved to, propose this motion. We have, I think it's Christine who seconded. Is that correct, Christine?
Yes, that's me. I'll second.
Okay. Now we go into the vote. I don't know, Leanne, how we do this? Raise of hand or?
Yeah, raising hands is easier than trying to filter through the chat.
Okay.
And if we were in the boardroom, we would be raising hands.
Anyone, and all in favor, raise your hand. Anyone against?
If we just do yeses, then because we don't abstain, any votes that aren't yes are no's.
Is there anyone against? No, all these people.
So I'm counting 5. Am I correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think we lost some hands. How about if you're against, don't use a hand. Just if you're in favor, use a hand. And
Yeah, we can't, yeah, there's no no's. It's a yes. We'll keep your hand down. So I have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Anyone against?
No, wait.
Well, just hold on. Let Leanne.
Hand down.
It's confusing people. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's confusing people.
we don't vote no, we just vote yes right now.
Yes.
So I have 9 and we need 8 for that motion to pass because we are down now to 14 members.
Okay,
So
that means
that
the motion
will
passed.
pass with 9.
Okay. Next, now that is
while we transition, I would just like to say thank you very much to everyone. This was not meant to be divisive. It really is just meant to help us move along and all do our jobs better. And I hope it will be taken.
let us listen to the Melissa. We took a lot of time. We don't even have time for the leadership report now. I think that is and Audley and Nandi.
So I'm not, I'll start off with respect to the leadership report. I think that it outlines some of the key initiatives that we have embarked on over the last month or so. I think the really important one that's in the leadership report is with respect to the Special Education Inclusion Annual Report. And that annual report outlines the key areas with which the Special Education Department for the 22-23 school year has been focused on. And so the report documents the key areas, provides key data around some of the some research that has been done, and it provides us with some of the key directions, keeping in mind that it is the actual special education plan that will be coming before SEAC for information and input before going on towards board. This particular report that we provided around the annual plan is a synopsis of some of the key high-level things that we have been focusing in on around inclusion, anti-oppression work, and equity work in various areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Audley. Anything to add?
I'm good, Jean-Paul. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nandi. Now, I think that is it is 9:32. I'm sorry, should all the working group updates. I know, Richard, you had something that you wanted to bring up. I'm sorry that it's already 9:30. No more question on this, and we are all responsible for this. I know that people will go into the email, trying to accuse me that I'm cutting people off, which is fine. That's also something that a chair can get, I mean, that is, Richard, you had something, for as an association update. Can you please share with us?
Thank you, Jean-Paul. The only note that I have is that the Down Syndrome Association of Toronto will be holding their Buddy Fun Run on May the 13th down in the beaches, and I will mention it again at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. Now, did any update from the trustees?
There are no trustee representatives here tonight.
No, we have two trustees here. I mean,
Oh,
they can have. The trustee, Sarah was here, on behalf of Trustee Hart.
Yeah, and I'll just mention that I spoke to Michelle, to Trustee Arts, prior to the meeting, and she did say she would send an email update. I'll just say we still don't have the grants for student needs from the province. And so, as a new trustee, I'm horrified that we still don't have any information on which to base financial plans for next year. Yes, so it's not good news, sadly, but Trustee Arts will provide an email update. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you. No, I think that is and I saw all the emails that people were sending out, about some of the issue, and I think, the purpose, we said that at the beginning in January, the purpose of working group is really to have those conversations that people are using email to send out there. That's the purpose of working group. And discussing all these details, you see now we're going a 2-hour meeting, we're going into, almost 3 hours, which is not exactly what we should do at these meetings. I think that is really, and I appreciate, having all this lengthy conversation, but it's not at this meeting. It should be at, working groups meeting. That's why we have working groups, not emails. Okay. Anyone, kind of, it is already too late. I'm sorry that we had to go again. We had to go extra today, and we'll make sure that at the next meeting. And I want to prepare anyone if there's anything, at the next meeting, if we continue to have this lengthy, I'll be, unfortunately cutting off people so that we use and referring people to working groups so that the working groups are really more active, getting all this lengthy discussion that we're having here. Some of the question clarification that we're having here could happen within working groups. Any other, comment? And we want to thank, Louise again, and thank, Audley. I don't know if Audley want to say something, to us before we close this meeting.
You know what? In all honesty, I think that I'll be brief, but I do want to say thank you to everyone. I know that our students are the most important things in our lives, and part of what SEAC does is advocate, and that's important. And I think that advocacy needs to be heard, and I think we want to work on how we work more collaboratively and better going forward. And I think Louise is going to be phenomenal for providing this group with support based on her experience and her provincial perspective. So I really think that better days are ahead, and that's where we need to move towards and look towards, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and it's to see each one of our students be successful. So thank you. Really appreciate the work that you do. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ole. Thanks for everything. I think that is. And another thing that a comment that I want to make here, I think that is, I've seen some sort of negative comment through emails. I just saw it now in the chat. Please, some people have their own experience on board. I do have my own experience too. And please stop doing that. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. I hope the person or the people who are doing this will stop doing it, will refrain from doing it. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone to a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Isabella. Thanks, and good night, everyone.